I'm now going to read G.K. Chesterton's poem on the disastrous spread of aestheticism in all classes. Now, what Chesterton was referring to is he was picturing in this poem what the world would look like if everybody and everything in it was an artist. Now, Chesterton's point was that not everybody can be an artist, only a person who has been selected or given the talent or the ability to be an artist. In this poem, Chesterton asks what the world would look like if chefs tried to act like artists, or other people who weren't artistic by nature acted like an artist. Would this world really be a blissful, peaceful place if that happened? And I think what this poem is telling us for our time is there is a difference between a person who I'd label a common sense socialist and a person whom I'd label a nutty socialist. A common sense socialist does want to see a social equality and would like better distribution of wealth and not too many poor people, but has to look realistically as to how this can come about. The nutty socialist imagines it in his mind, and he thinks he can take what he imagines in his mind and make it a reality. Such a person I refer to as a nutty socialist. And for the best examples of common sense socialism and nutty socialism in the world, let's just take a look at my own country of Canada. In the prairie provinces of Saskatchewan and Manitoba, the CCF and later the NDP parties were an example of common sense socialism. That's why the CCF and NDP in the provinces of Saskatchewan and Manitoba survived more than one term in office. In fact, in Saskatchewan there was a CCF NDP government for up to 20 years in power. On the other hand, in the provinces of Ontario and British Columbia, you have in those two NDP parties what I'd call nutty socialists. And that's why every time the BC electorate and Ontario electorate were stupid enough to elect an NDP government in the first place to head their province, why immediately after the next election they threw these nuts and flakes out of our office. And for my American friends who seem to be against all forms of socialism, just look at British Prime Minister Tony Blair, who many Americans admire. Tony Blair, of course, is an example of a common sense socialist, and that is why the Americans were able to look at Tony Blair with such great favor. But enough of politics. Here is Chesterton's poem on the disastrous spread of aestheticism in all classes. Impetuously I sprang from bed long before lunch was up, that I might drain the dizzy dew from day's first golden cup. In swift devouring ecstasy each toil in turn was done. I had done lying on the lawn 3 minutes after 1. For me, as Mr. Wordsworth says, the duties shine like stars. I formed my uncle's character, decreasing his cigars. But could not my kind engross me, no? Stern art, what suns escape her? Soon I was drawing Gladstone's nose on scraps of blotting paper. Then on to play one-fingered tunes upon my aunt's piano. In short, I have a headlong soul. I much resemble Hannibal. Forgive the entrance of the not too cogent Carthaginian. It may have been to make a rhyme. I lean to that opinion. Then my great work of book research till dusk I took in hand, the forming of a final sound, opinion on the strand. But when I quenched the midnight oil and closed the referee, whose 30 volumes folio I take to bed with me, I had a rather funny dream, intense, that is, and mystic. I dreamed that with one leap and yell the world became artistic. The shopmen, when their souls were still, declined to open shops, and cooks recorded frames of mind in sad and subtle chops. The stars were weary of routine. The trees in the plantation were growing every fruit at once, in search of a sensation. The moon went for a moonlight stroll, and tried to be a bard, and gazed enraptured at itself. I left it, trying hard. The sea had nothing but a mood of vague, ironic gloom, with which to explain its presence in my upstairs drawing room. The sun had read a little book that struck him with a notion. He drowned himself and all his fires deep in the hissing ocean. Then all was dark, lawless, and lost. I heard great devilish wings. I knew that art had won and snapped the covenant of things. I cried aloud, and I awoke. New labors in my head. I set my teeth and manfully began to lie in bed. Toiling, rejoicing, sorrowing, so I my life conduct. Each morning see some task begun, each evening see it shut. But still in sudden moons of dusk I hear those great weird wings, feel vaguely thankful to the vast stupidity of things.